Hello, this is project 3 for our fluid flow fluent analysis of Invisid, laminar, and turbulent flow over a cylinder. So first thing, I'm going to go ahead and grab fluid flow fluent and creating a new project. Since I already have one called Invisid, I'm going to just name this one Invisid 2. And then we're going to come up to geometry, left click, and new design modeler geometry. Now that it's pulled up, I'm going to select XY plane and make it normal to the Z axis. I'm going to move over to sketching and create a circle. And then go ahead and move over to dimensions, select diameter, select my shape. And I'm just going to make my diameter 1. Now I'm going to come back up to draw. I'm going to draw my lines. I do this because drawing the rectangle, it won't automatically center the origin. So doing this is just much easier. Alright, so now I'm going to come back to dimensions, and I'm just going to define these really quick. I'm going to define this as 25, make this 25 as well. And now I can come back up and draw, create my rectangle, and that makes a 50 by 50 rectangle. Now I'll just go ahead and move to modify and just delete the unnecessary lines. So now we just have our rectangle and our inner circle. Next I'm going to come up to concept, select surfaces from sketches, and I'm just going to make sure that that's selected and that this is our surface from sketch. And I'm going to select generate. Oh, I got to select my sketch and then select generate. What do you mean base object not selected? Hold on. I'm going to select my sketch, then I'm going to hit concept, surfaces from sketches. I'm going to select apply, and then I'm going to select generate. Now this gives us our inner area highlighted and the circle is going to not be highlighted. So now I'm going back to the workbench. I'm going to go ahead and update the mesh. And then I'll open it as soon as it's ready. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and open our mesh. Alright, now that our mesh is open, I'm going to go ahead and make it normal to the z-axis. It's already very zoomed in on my screen. I'm going to go ahead and select mesh. And I'm going to go to... Hold on, why did it already mesh? Okay, that's a little weird, but don't worry, it'll fix itself. So we're going to go to insert, select method. I'm going to go ahead and select the space, and then I'm going to hit apply. And instead of quadrilateral dominant, I'm going to use the triangles. And then I'm going to go ahead and select generate. And then I'm going to select my mesh, and this is what it'll look like. Now we're going to select on the mesh again, insert, sizing, and I'm going to use my edge select tool, and I'm going to select the innermost circle and hit apply. Then I'm going to move from element size to number of divisions, and for this case I'm just going to say 200 divisions. And then I'm going to go ahead and select generate. And now this is what it looks like. Now we're going to come back up to the mesh, insert, and this time we're going to insert inflation. And so we're going to go ahead and select our shape, hit apply. And now for the boundary, I'm going to change to the edge selection tool, select that innermost circle, and hit apply on the boundary. And instead of making it smooth transition, I'm going to make it first layer thickness. And for the first layer height, I'm going to make it 0.005. And then for maximum layers, I'm going to set it to 100. And then I'm going to go ahead and select generate. And I'll pause it since this may take a while. Alright, so now our mesh is generated, and this is what it looks like for right now. And so now that I'm back to the mesh, I'm just going to change the element size to 0.15. And then I'm going to go ahead and generate that. And I'll pause since it may take a minute. Alright, it's done meshing, so now as you can see it's really dark around this outside and lighter near the center. It's not perfect, but it'll work for what we need to do. So now I'm just going to come over and select each of my edges and name everything. So for this I'm going to name it velocity inlet. This I'm going to name pressure outlet. This is just going to be wall. And then my top and bottom will be symmetry. And then go ahead and click OK. That's got this all set up, so we can go back to Workbench. And I'm going to go ahead and update my mesh, and then I'll open Setup. Alright, our mesh is updated, so now I will open our setup. I'm going to go ahead and select double precision, and for solver processes I'm just going to select 4, and I'll make it go ahead and start, and I'll pause until it's finished. Alright, now we have everything ready in our setup, so I'm just going to click OK on this message, and I'm going to move over to models. For viscous, I'm going to make it Invisid since that's what this first step is for. And just go ahead and select that and hit OK. Then I'm going to come over to materials, select fluid, select air. And instead of having it be 1.225, I'm just going to make it 1. And I'm going to hit change and create and then close. Now I'm going to come over to my boundary conditions, and I'm going to go to my velocity inlet and select edit, and I'm just going to put in a velocity for this. I used 5, but so long as you do the math you can make it whatever you want. And I'm going to select apply and then close. Now for reference values, I'm going to make it compute from velocity inlet, so that way it has all of the velocity and all of the other things how it needs to be. Alright, that's got that taken care of, so now I'm going to move on to initialization. And it's got hybrid initialization. And for the number of iterations, I'm just going to make it go to 20. And I'm going to select apply and exit out of that. And I'm going to hit initialize. And then once it's done initializing, I'll hit run calculations. And for this, I'm going to make my number of iterations 500. And I'll go ahead and select calculate, and I'll pause the video as it calculates. Alright, the calculation's complete, so just go ahead and hit OK. So next we're going to come down to results, and I'm going to select graphics and select contours. And for this one, I'm going to make it the contour of static pressure, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight all my surfaces, select compute, and then save and display. And as we can see, it's most intense at the ends and least intense at the top and the bottom. Meanwhile, if you were to look at the velocity, it'll be the opposite. So least intense at the sides, most intense at the top and bottom. If we look at our pressure, I'm going to check our pressure coefficient, select compute, and then save and display. And that has our contours. So next we're going to come down to plots and do XY plot. Now, if you were to want to write this information, you would just go ahead and select Write to File and save it to your file, so that way you can add all of these things into a graph together with each other as per the assignment requests. But for now, I'm just going to show you what each of the graphs looks like. So I'm going to select Wall and look at the static pressure, so I'm going to hit Save and Plot. That's what the static pressure looks like. So if we were to change it from static to pressure coefficient, it's going to be a lot sounder, and it's just going to be that U shape, or it should be that U shape, and that's what I got on my individual ones. But this one's a little wonky for some reason, not really sure why. So now we're going to look at our velocity and save and plot. And this is what that velocity looks like. Once again, it should just be a parabola. I don't know why this one has this as its result. It's very weird. This isn't what I got for my other one, but I have recorded this 10 times and I'm not doing it again. So we have all of this data, and if we want to see what the drag force is, we're just going to come down to forces, select it. I'm going to select wall and then select print, and it just comes out down here at the bottom, and that is what your drag force is. So now I'm going to come back over to Workbench, and I'm going to select results. And I'll pause the recording as it loads. Alright, now it has loaded in. I'm just going to go ahead and make it normal to the z-axis. I'm just going to make it show what's going on, and I'm going to come up here to Streamline and create this, and I'm going to have it start from the velocity inlet. Variable will be velocity. direction forward. For number of points, I'm going to make it 250. I'm going to go ahead and select apply. And what we should see is just the path of the velocity as it goes over. And that's what we see here. So if we want to zoom in on it really quick, this is what we see. It's got a bit of a bubble to it. I'm assuming that's from the mesh. But this is overall what our streamline looks like.